Hey guys, this is Ryan Maifield, and you are listening to the No Name RC podcast.
Hey, so what's up, guys? It's your main man, Lefty, and this is episode 20 of the No Name RC podcast. And our special guest today is the man himself, Ryan Maifield. What's going on, Ryan? How are you?
Not much, man. Just waking up, getting the day going. Things are going good.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. You just came off your victory in Vegas. That was what, the J Concepts Turf Nationals or something like that?
Yeah, Jason's doing a series of carpet tracks. I think he's doing 4 venues, I believe, just kind of coinciding with his dirt series. And, they're separate championships, but he's kind of trying to do the same thing he's been doing with dirt for the past handful of years. He wants to just kind of get the carpet scene a little bigger in America, which it's surprisingly pretty big. There is a lot of tracks, and it is a lot of fun to race on for sure.
Yeah, I think I raced over in England. I wouldn't call what I was doing racing, but I got my first taste of turf and carpet there, and I enjoyed it. You know, a lot of people are against it, but I think it's good for getting new people in the hobby as well. So,
yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit out of the racing as far as the tire game goes. You know, well, as long as it's like a spec tire race, I'm sure if it was open tire at a big race, it might turn into a nightmare, just like anything. But everything we're doing right now is spec tire, so you just show up, put these tires on your cars, and then you just worry about car setup and driving. And that's definitely fun, and it's crazy fast. I mean, mod is unreal fast. Mm-hmm. Basically, you just put as much power in as possible, and then just got to take it easy on the trigger. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. I think it's another side of racing that, like you said, can maybe bridge the gap to bring more people in and more. Yeah, I think it can bring more people in to racing that might not otherwise see it, because I think it could make it more. It can make it easier for people to actually build tracks in different locations, and a lot of people don't. People that own buildings don't want people to bring in a bunch of dirt and moisture. It causes mold, and with carpet you don't have to do that. So, I think it's cool. I think it has a good spot in the future of racing. Yeah. I don't think it eliminates dirt ever, but it can definitely be a big part of our racing in the future.
Yeah, there'll always be room for dirt. It's just that, like you said, it's harder. It's easier with AstroTurf. It's also easier for the racer, because they don't have to spend a whole bunch of money on tires trying to figure it out, and then they can worry more about car setup, like you said, which is important. People need to learn that. So, obviously everybody knows you, but people that may not know you, which I don't think anybody exists. You're Ryan Maifield. You're 32 years old.
Yep.
You're from Arizona.
Yep.
You have you won the 2017 10th scale 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive IFMAR World Championship. You've won Reedy Race. You have multiple DNC wins, multiple national titles. Probably won every big race that's out there in America, and you've done it maybe twice, correct?
Yeah, probably. First, I've been racing for a long time, so yeah.
Which race in America haven't you pretty much won yet, you think? That's still around.
As far as national championships, the only one I haven't won that I've tried to race is 2-wheel drive mod, which is definitely something I want to accomplish. And as far as that's probably about it in America. The Neo Buggy race in England, I never won. I went to it a lot.
Yes.
I got the closest I got. I think I got second a couple times, and that was a tough race, man. That thing. That every year I'd leave frustrated and wanting more. Yeah. But yeah, it never happened. Sadly, it's not around anymore. I wish it was. But yeah, that would have been nice to have that one on the shelf as well.
Yeah, it was a prestigious race. I mean, they're having DXRs having the race in the same location this year. Yep. And that's good. I think that's great, because they need a really big 8-scale race in England. And I think they're doing it exactly, I think, the schedule like Neo, which was really good. And hopefully it builds up to the prestige that Neo was, and then more people can go to it and enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy watching it, so it should be good.
Yeah.
I think, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, DXR always put on a great event, and I hope that they can do something that is sustainable there, because it was cool just the facility, staying on campus at a college like that, and But for sure, they always built a great track, and with everybody knowing who Neo Buggy was, it always gave it that prestige and that worldwide, kind of reach as far as media goes. So yeah, I wish them luck. I hope they do go good with it.
I hope so too. So we're not gonna go too deep into your early days because a lot of people kind of know how you started, but I like to say you're the final edition of the podium. It was Tebow, Cavallari, and you. You guys kind of, I don't know who was first out of you guys who kind of got into this and became popular, but it's you three guys that kind of, when I was in RC back in the day, you were the young guys coming up and he's getting faster and faster. And, in my time, the fast guys were like Degani and Saxton and Bill Hagan and, Chad Bradley, Jason Ashton, but you guys were the up and comers coming behind them. And then you started beating them. So we can start from there. Like, where did you and Tebow and Cavallari kind of cut your teeth? I know it was Gas Truck too, because Tebow always says it was Gas Truck that he really got started. How about yourself?
I was a little late to the game as far as that goes. I think Cavallari was probably the first of us to really, go to the next level because he won the Worlds in 2003. Mm-hmm. Tebow did start in Gas Truck. I know Ryan and I really started in kind of two-wheel drive mod racing 10 scale. And at the time of kind of me becoming up and comer as far as the pro level goes, that was kind of really the beginning of the boom of nitro in America. Like the late 90s, early 2000s, or I should say through the 90s, early 2000s, nitro racing wasn't quite as big in America as it is now. Mm-hmm. And, there was only a couple of A-scale cars and, they were obviously very expensive and there wasn't that many tracks. So, Gas Truck was always kind of around and, I don't know if it was just because I wasn't really racing the full scene, but, people didn't really talk about going to nitro races. There was, it was the Cactus Classic was the big event. The Hot Rod Hobby Shootout, the Reedy race. When I started, kind of becoming a pro, Richard Saxton, obviously was working for Associated and Thunder Tiger at the time. And, he kind of helped me get my Gas Truck game going a little bit and, asked if I wanted to try some A-scale. And of course, I had kind of dabbled in it, by myself, before having sponsor support, back when my dad was flipping the bill for most of the stuff. And, he got me on Thunder Tiger and, basically with Richard's help, he kind of showed me the ways of how to make the car work and, how the engines work and all that stuff. And, it was fun. I didn't really know Ryan or Jared, cause I grew up in, Arizona. They were both in California and I kind of met them just, by going to these events and doing well. And, I guess when you notice somebody your same age doing kind of the same stuff, you kind of become friends automatically. Tebow and I were teammates on Associated, and Ryan ran for Losi at the time. We've known each other for a long time, and it's been fun racing with those guys through all this for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you may mention Saxton because when I did the Tebow interview, but like earlier on, he said Saxton was one of the guys that were very influential and taught him a lot back in the day as well. And even Saxton mentioned you and Cavallari and Tebow as well. So that's one common denominator that you guys have. And I guess it worked out for you guys because you guys are all champions.
Yeah, no, Richard's the man. He's been doing this for a long time. And he taught me a lot and he's still here. And, now we're still friends and, he comes over and asks me questions about stuff. I ask him questions about stuff. And, it's cool. It's cool to see Richard still around. I appreciate everything he did for me in the past. And he's doing it again with, Rifkin. And, I see he helps Ongaro when he is around Ongaro. And, he's a good guy for the industry. He's definitely one of the first to take in the young talent and show them the ways of the road.
Oh yeah. I enjoyed my talk with Richard. He's good people. He's got some great stories and he's very humble. And I like that about him too.
Yep.
And that's good stuff. Your first real breakout race was the Cactus Classic. I'm not sure what year it was. I don't know how old you was. When was that?
That was 2003. Yeah, I had raced the Cactus. That was my home race. I don't know, my first Cactus, probably 93, 94, something like that. But yeah, 2003 was the first time I did anything in the mod class, for sure.
So you was what age at this time? 2003. So let's go back.
Yeah, 17, young. 16, something like that.
So you're still young. Was you still in school and all that stuff?
Yeah, I was still in high school. I wasn't racing. I was 75% sponsored by Associated and Reedy. Not a pro driver by any means. I wasn't traveling, going to any events, just because, didn't have the money, obviously school. So, it was basically the first year the B4 Associated came out with a new two-wheel drive car. And I got it the week before the event, built it at the track with my buddy Billy Fisher that I used to race with a lot, and just kind of worked on my own with my local friends, Scott Spear, Billy Fisher, a few other guys that I raced with all the time, and somehow found a setup that worked really well. And I went TQ two-wheel drive modified, ended up winning A2 and A3. I think I raced stock buggy the same year. I think I actually got beaten stock buggy by Billy. But I won mod, beat all the top guys. And I had an invoice on my table to pay for that buggy, and Mike Reedy came over and was like, "Hey, you don't have to worry about paying for that car. You're fine." So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was definitely unexpected, and it definitely launched to where I am today.
So after that, that's like your first one. Let's say that's your first 100 deal. And where did it go from there? I mean, you had to finish school. Did you, after that race, did you start racing more, traveling more?
Yeah, I didn't think much of it. I'd always had kind of the driving talent, but back then there wasn't really much of this idea of being a pro. There was sponsored guys, but these guys also worked at, the companies, like Billy Easton, Mark Pavitas. Ken Wall didn't work at Losi, but, all these guys lived in California, basically. There was only a few guys that didn't live in California that, were considered pro guys. And, there wasn't much talk of, people getting paid, and there wasn't that many companies back then. Now there's so many companies, there's so many avenues you can go down to try to be a quote unquote pro driver. So after that win, I just thought, okay, this is, that was fun. It's fun to win, obviously. And Brent Thelke, the team associated team manager, is from Arizona as well. And he had just kind of taken on the role of the team manager, moved to California for Associated. And he mentioned him, we kind of just talked like they were going to try to help me maybe get to a couple events that year, like the Hot Rod Shootout and the Nationals. And that was about it. So I went to both of those events and did pretty well. The Nationals in Albuquerque, the track was essentially, kind of the same as what the Cactus was. They were kind of, all the tracks back then were like that, like outdoor, really high bite, a lot of tire wear. So went there and did pretty well. I think I finished on the podium in truck mod. Not really sure the rest of the results, but I think 2005 is probably when I really became, did the full traveling circus, as we like to call it. Like, that was my first world championship in Italy. So yeah, I mean, it was, I would say it was a slow start. I definitely didn't jump all the way into it at first.
What was you? No, you finished, because in America you guys finished school at 18. Was you working on anything besides RC car racing?
Yeah, well, my parents were janitors for. That's what they did for a job. They worked at the Boys and Girls Club, and I would go to work with them. They would go to work really early in the morning, and I would go with them and help them, kind of before school, go to school. And then I was also in automotive school and worked at Big O Tires for a while. I kind of worked for my buddy's tree trimming company that, obviously tree service,
Yes.
basically any tree removal or tree trimming. That job sucked for sure. And then I worked at a grocery store. That was probably my first job, like outside of working with my parents, just bagging groceries and stuff like that. I did a couple.
So you've had real life experience. You've had real world work experience before you became a pro driver.
Yes, I've worked real jobs, and I know I'm lucky to be able to do what I do. And I definitely don't want to go back to trimming trees. That's for sure. No, and I respect anybody that does it. Yeah, it's tough work.
It is. I mean, I think that's really important because nowadays we have parents taking their kids out of school and putting them in homeschool to like focus on RC racing and stuff like that. And to me, I get it what they're trying to do, but I also think that takes away from a kid's experience in high school. And I think all people, like when I was 16, dude, I was out working. Like we finished in Bermuda, we finished school at 16. I was working, I was traveling. Like I came on my first trip here to the Dominican Republic and stuff like that. So I definitely think that's a good thing for kids. Even if your goal is to be RC pro RC racer, a real world job. So you want to even work even harder to be a pro RC guy if you can do it. So good stuff, man. I think that's cool. Now, as you was coming up, well, we kind of when did you transition to full-time professional? Like, I'm getting paid for this.
Well, I don't really remember exactly. I think maybe before the Worlds in Italy, I was getting like a little bit of money. Like, I think my first paycheck, I want to say it was maybe $500 a month. And then I went to the Worlds in Italy. And TQ'd four-wheel drive. I finished third in both classes. I think I had a pretty good year outside of that Worlds. And then I think that my next pay raise was maybe up to $800. I remember getting $800 for quite a while. And I decided to move to California to try to refocus on what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I wanted to race, and I was kind of hanging out with not a great group of guys outside of RC in Arizona, and getting into trouble and stuff. So I woke up one morning and decided, you know what, I got to get out of here. So I packed up my car and left. Didn't really tell anybody, and I was only there for a year, but that was a big year for me as far as just learning the ropes of RC and seeing how, at the time the real pro guys were doing it. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, you don't win one race and all of a sudden they hand you a fat check. It was something that I loved to do and made sacrifices to do as well as my parents did. And, it's crazy where it's taken me, and it's been fun. Looking back, it's always great stories. I mean, anytime with Joe Pillars and Cavalieri, because we lived together, I slept on their couch for a couple months, and that was good times going to SoCal and burning laps and causing trouble. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that, and I'm glad you say that, because a lot of people have this in their brain that if I could just win this one race, I'm going to be a pro. It doesn't really work like that. You have to. It takes a lot of work, man. Like anything in life, it's a lot of work, and in RC, it's even harder because it's such a small window to do it. So
right, yeah. I mean, you're only as valuable as your last race, and until you get to a certain level, once you can show companies and sponsors that you can go anywhere and perform on the same level that you typically do. That's when you truly become a pro driver. Having one good weekend, even say you beat everybody, that you beat the best in the world, that really doesn't show that you can do this. You have to go to the next week and do it again, and the next week and do it again. And the only way you can do that is by coming home and putting your results behind you and focusing on the next week.
Yes.
And I think that's what some people forget, and they just kind of sit and relish in their results, and that's not how you keep yourself motivated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Who were some of the drivers that you looked up to when you was coming up through the ranks? Who were some of the guys you tried to, I wouldn't say emulate, but, you know, I want to beat him, or I want to be like him, or I want to be better than him, whatnot?
Yeah, I don't remember anybody in particular that I wanted to emulate or beat. I remember going to the Reedy race in the late 90s. I think 95, 96, 97. My parents took me to the Reedy race. And remember they had the invite class like they do now, and all the all the invite guys pitted in the same spot. And my mom would have a coffee pot and, always have snacks and all that stuff. And Mike Reedy would always be around, drinking coffee and talking with my parents. So it was really cool how he spent time speaking with me and my parents, and we were nobodies, we were just people. Mm-hmm. And another, Mike obviously wasn't a pro driver, but he was a legend. Even then, everybody knew who Mike Reedy was. And then meeting Derek Fertani, he still works for Kyosho. He was, I remember he just was different. He had really long hair, and he was super funny and outspoken. And I kind of gravitated towards him. And I always wanted to put his car down. I remember he ran like a Predator 4-wheel drive car at one point. I remember looking at that thing like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And he let me put his car on the track, and I thought that was the best thing ever. And all those guys back then, most of those guys were really cool. I remember Matt Francis, Mark Francis being really nice. And it was just I looked up to them as far as just wanting to be able to do what they do. Mm-hmm. And I remember just looking at everybody's cars, because back then it was like an art to build a car. Yeah. Now you can just build a kit, and anybody can make their car look like my car. And back then you would look at like Brian Kinwald's car, and it was like, holy crap, that thing is, you couldn't even recognize what it was. It was so cool. You know what I mean? So it was definitely different back then. Just getting to see those guys, getting to see all their stuff. There was no social media. You had magazines. Yes. You had to wait 2-3 months to even see results from the last big event. So yeah, that was cool to be able to go see that at such a young age, and that was good. I remember those times, man. RC car action, like begging my mom to buy that like for a month, and then I would like work and make enough money to get them, and then ordering my first car through the magazine. I was crazy. It was good stuff. That's good times in the 90s. Also a big influence in your career has been Jason Rona. I mean, I've talked to him on numerous times. He talks extremely highly of you. You have kind of been with J Concepts from the beginning, I want to say. Yep. And you've been with him for a long time now. How influential has Jason been in your decisions in your career over the years? Yeah, Jason and I have been working together since the beginning, basically. Kind of before there even was a J Concepts. I don't really remember. I think I met Jason. He worked at Proline in the 90s, and I ran for Proline. I think that's when we first met. And then he started, when I started kind of going into the racing scene more, or the touring scene, I should say. Mm-hmm. They had just done the BJ4, like the first version that he had ran at the 2003 Worlds. And they were starting, at the time, Associated didn't have a 4-wheel drive car. So he was kind of starting to work with them to get their drivers like Mark Pavidis and Scott Brown and a few of these guys to run his car, basically. And I was kind of right there on the cusp of all that happening. He had been making bodies kind of in his garage, so I was running those bodies just because I liked the way they looked. But I was running Proline tires, and yeah, I don't know, just developed a friendship. I think he liked the way I drove, and saw the potential. And yeah, we've been doing it ever since. Just anytime there's a serious decision on the table, I rely on him to give me the good feedback on kind of what both sides of the plate, so to speak, the good and the bad, and, we can discuss it. And he's always had sound advice, no matter what the question is. So it's been a good relationship. I've helped him, kind of expose his brand and what his products are capable of doing. And he's helped me, I would say, further my career and keep me pointed in the right direction.
Yeah. Rona's a very smart guy. I really admire what he's done in the industry, like starting from his garage to what he has now. And he's still very active in RC. They sponsor a lot of things. He's doing these different series. I think that's all great stuff. So kudos to Rona, man. I'm nobody, but I think he's been very good for the industry, and I love what J Concepts is doing, and good stuff, man. That's always good stuff.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about your 8-scale career, because this podcast is really more about Nitro, and because we believe Nitro is the glory. You really, Thunder Tiger, that's what you kind of cut your teeth on, an 8-scale. And a lot of people may not know what Thunder Tiger is, but this is one of the top brands back in the day. You actually run a Raw Nats with it. Which one was that, and where was it to?
I believe it was 2006, and it was at the farm in North Carolina.
The farm 2? Yeah, farm 2.
The farm 2, yep. And I was running, obviously, Pro Line at the time. That was really the only tire. I mean, back then you had like 2 tire options. Mm-hmm. You ran Cran Fighters or bow ties, and working with Richard Saxton, and I think it was honestly one of my first big Nitro events. We went there, and my buddy Jake Thayer came to be my mechanic, and we walked away with the trophy. I mean, I remember it was back then, it was kind of, if you could finish the main, you were definitely going to be fighting for the win. And I think I qualified 6th or 7th, something like that. And Jake stayed up all night. I went to bed. He stayed up all night building that thing, gluing everything together. Back then you had a shoe goo stuff. It was like Degani used to call build your car for war. And that's what you had to do.
Polishing shock shafts and all that stuff. Was this the tunnel chassis, or had they had moved on from the regular chassis after that, and the shocks were the shocks still going through the front arms?
The kit still came with those parts, but Richard, we were running a flat chassis on that car. I think we were running a raised rear end, like raising the diff. Mm-hmm. The front shocks went through the upper arms. Yeah. Which was kind of crazy. And the car was not a stereotypical car. It was definitely different. And but it sometimes worked. I don't want to say it definitely wasn't the best car, but it worked. Richard won some events with it, and then somehow I won the nationals. A couple guys had problems in the main. I think Chad Bradley's tire fell off on the straightaway while he was leading and blew his engine up.
Taylor James was at that race too. Taylor James was on fire in Nitro at that time. Yeah,
Taylor James, he was running jamming, always super fast. It was crazy. It was kind of a surprise victory, and still to this day, that's my only A-scale national win. So I need to.
You know what? I didn't even realize that. I need to. You know what? I'm going to tell you, to try and find out things about drivers on the internet and RC is really difficult. So I didn't even know that was your only Raw Nats win, but you got plenty of time for more, dude. So that's not a big deal. I'm sure you got a couple in the bag. Now, another race that has escaped your grasp and you've come close is the Worlds, the 8-scale Worlds. Would you consider the 8-scale Worlds like the upper echelon race that every person that's racing off-road wants to win?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely. I don't want to say that we hang our hat on that race every year to define, our career or our year or whatever, because it's. I mean, you just never know what's going to go down. You don't know what the track's going to do. You don't know what the weather's going to do. I mean, it's a total crapshoot. You know what I mean? It's so long. I've been to a few of these Worlds where, dominated a day or two of qualifying, and then all of a sudden the track changes and I can barely put it in the main, or barely finish top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And, that happens to a lot of people. But yes, if you can win the A-Scale World Championship, you can definitely hold your head high that you conquered one of the gnarliest, the hardest, the longest events, and you beat everybody, because everybody goes to that race, because it's still one of those events where anybody can win it. If you're a pro guy from anywhere around the world, that track could potentially suit your driving style or your car or your tire a little bit better that weekend. You know what I mean? So that's what makes it so crazy, is you just don't know. You have no clue what to expect or what's going to happen. So if you can end the weekend, on the podium, or even just making the main, because the weekend's so long, you're like, oh, all right. Thank God it's going pretty well. You know what I mean? Like, because it's crazy, man, for sure.
Well, I have a little list here, and in 2008 you was running Associated at the farm to that race. I remember you was very close. 2010 was with the one that Cody won. You was in the mix as well, but I can't recall what happened there. TLR, when you in 2014 in Italy, dude, you was out front, getting ready to dominate, and then I believe you had a servo go wrong.
Yeah, we can go through each list, and I can tell you exactly what went on.
All right, well, let's do 2008 then. Let's start there. 2008
was the RC8. I think our first Worlds as associated with our A-Scale car, and it had rained and poured, and just the week was chaos. And Cavalieri and I'm pretty sure we started first and second in the main after the semis. I started first, and I led a lot of the event, a lot of the main, and came in for my last fuel stop, I believe, second to last fuel stop in the lead, and fouled the plug in the pits.
No way.
Yeah, and just they changed the plug, went back out, and I'm not sure where I finished. That was the year Hara won. He went 10-minute stops. And then 2010, that was in Thailand, and I led, qualified on the pole out of the semis, went basically the whole race in front, I think at the 45 minute mark. I flipped over. There's a huge bank sweeper around the left side of the track. I was running a low C pull strap fuel tank pull to open the tank for the pit guys, and my body didn't really cover it well to protect it from crashing. I didn't learn this until that main, and I flipped over, and it just opened the tank just a little bit. It was what was crazy was Live RC actually had it on video, and they slow-mo replayed it for me, and because I was blaming my pit guys that they ran me out of gas.
Right.
And they actually showed me the video. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So I ran out of gas 10 feet before the start-finish line as they called me in to come get fuel.
No way.
Yeah, that one was a heartbreaker. That one I smashed a radio in my own. I walked back to the pit. We were pitting in these containers, and I walked back there, and I was seeing red because it was so close, and just exploded that thing, and I sweeped it up and went home and bought a new one before anybody even knew about it.
Yeah.
And 2012 Argentina, we had a prototype car. That thing was really handmade. I got into the main. I think I was maybe the only guy with the associated car in the main. I actually did get in the lead for a little while. It didn't last long. Robert Battle was untouchable at that race. I think I ended up finishing 5th. And then what's next? 14? Which one was that?
That was in Italy, the one Thai one.
Yeah.
So that was to do TLR. Car. Yeah.
That one was good. We made a lot. I had just came onto the team Losi. Really not much experience with the car. Adam Drake and the rest of the team, we worked really hard and made it work on the concrete. I started on the pole out of the semis, and what sucked there was in the semis, I remember the car feeling a little weird at the end of the semi, and I thought maybe it was just tire wear. The front end wasn't as precise as I wanted it to be, and I thought maybe it was the tires. So came back, kind of went through the car and went back out for warm up, and it still had that same feeling. And I had this sneaky, suspicion that it was probably a servo, and it was too late. And I was kind of losing steering, but I was leading. Car was amazing. Went through this crazy high speed chicane in the back of the track and just wasn't even close. I can't believe I didn't saw the front of the car off, and then that just TKO'd the servo the rest of the way.
Yeah.
That was a bummer.
It was a shame, dude, because you was way out front. Like, you was just, it was pretty. I remember watching that race, and I was like, no way. No way.
Yeah, that one was heartbreaking. I remember walking down, and, Jason, he had made a bunch of new tires for that track, and we had the best tires. Everything was working great, and just, it was a bummer. Man, that was a bummer for sure. And then 2000, what's next, 16?
Yep. In Vegas.
That was in Vegas, yep. That one I went in really confident. We had done a lot of rough track testing because we knew that track was going to be crazy. And it just, I never got the car to where it needed to be. I think I basically I barely made the main. I circulated around probably, between 7th and last, basically the whole hour. And, I just never got it going. And then obviously 18, went okay, a little better.
Yeah. I mean, well, that brings us, you did really well. I mean, you finished third, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So now that brings me to your 8-scale program now, which is you joined Mugen in 2017. Yes, after you and that era, and it's your 8-scale program has been like top notch, been solid ever since. What do you think has made that happen? Is it the people that you're working with? I know Drake and Truy are helping you out a lot. I watched them guys help you out a lot at the DNC this year. But I mean, I think so. Like, really, the Mugen has suited you since you joined.
Yeah, I mean, I think just coming to a brand like Mugen, they obviously have decades of experience with racing A-scale, and the cars are very, I don't want to say easy, but they're solid. That doesn't take a ton to figure out the car, and especially when you have a guy like Adam that's doing this every day. Right when I got there, I went to Mugen and he built. I sat and built a car with him, and he taught me all the little tricks and secrets, and which there really isn't many. Just to make sure you put this together that way and yada yada. So. It was a really smooth transition. Having Truy on the team as well, he's good with the setups and watching a car and kind of seeing what it's doing and being able to turn that into let's move the shock here or the upper A arm there or whatever. And so it's good. I mean, you're only as good as the people around you, and those two are one of the best or some of the best that's ever raced. And obviously the car. Speaks for itself. It's not always the fastest car, but it's never the slowest car. And, you can kind of, you can tune it to almost any surface, which is very important. It's been great. We've had a lot of success, a few heartbreaks, but there's been a lot more good than bad. And that's all you can ask for in racing.
Oh yeah. I definitely think the good has outweighed the bad. I mean, it's been pretty good. And that leads me into our next question. I talked to you at DNC the Sunday before the finals, and 2 people stood out to me that day who I thought are going to win. Actually, 3. You was very confident, and I think you was really fired up about the whole Euro versus USA thing. And Ronnefalk was the other person who was very confident. We know he broke. And Ongaro was confident too. But you actually went out there after... you and Ronnefalk kind of checked out, and then he made some mistakes, you caught him up, and you passed him, and then he broke, and then it was just like you just like kicked it into overdrive, and was just like, yeah, that's it. You just, as for better terms, you Mayfielded DNC. So, what was your thinking like? Because when I spoke to you on the morning, you was like super, like I could I don't know if I was there. I was looking like the intensity was there, and you're like, I'm going to beat these guys. Like, this is what I'm going to do. So, and you wasn't at that time, to that time, you wasn't the fastest guy. Ron Falk was fast, Ongaro was fast, but we all know that the fastest guy in qualifying doesn't always win the race. So how did you let's talk us through the race and talk us through like your pre-race mental program that you went through before that.
Yeah. I mean, any of these nitro races, it doesn't, I mean, obviously you want to qualify well, but you want to go off of what the car feels like, for a long race, especially at a race like the Nitro Challenge, because the practice is so limited. I mean, even qualifying is limited, 3 5-minute runs.
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to spend every moment on the track, not worried about speed so much, but worried about what the car is doing for the entire time you're on the track. And trying to find the most comfort, if you can find the most comfort and you're out there TQing, then cool. But, when I'm coming back and, after maybe getting a second place run or a third place run, I'm not really focused on how do I go finish first. I want to try to focus on what do I need to do to make this thing more comfortable for the 45-minute main or hour-long main, whatever it is, whatever race we're at. So that's really what I tried to do. I knew I had a very comfortable car going into the final, which I knew was going to be key because basically all the conditions were severe. Mm-hmm. The weather conditions were severe. The track conditions were severe. The lighting conditions were severe. So I just knew that if I could make sure the car was put together right and I didn't do anything to cause harm to my race, as far as, maybe picking the wrong fuel mileage and, picking the wrong tires, whatever it may be, that I was going to have a shot to win. So that was, really my focus just going in. And, I was probably a little bit fired up. I don't get where this whole Euro thing came from. This whole gyro talk started last year at the Nitro Challenge. And it was probably started a little bit before that. And,
yeah.
Basically this came about because at Padova, where a lot of these guys race, gyros are illegal.
They're illegal. Yeah.
Yeah, they're legal. So now they all tell us that, pro guys can't make a gyro work. Like they're for the beginners. They let the beginners use them. And, which may be true. Mm-hmm. But, we went to Nitro Challenge last year. It was, all of a sudden there was 2 guys, I won't name names, that went crazy fast in one of the qualifiers. And, of course, that sparked a conversation. And then once they started checking for them and they were announcing that gyros are illegal and if we find them, you'll be removed, all of a sudden they weren't fast anymore. So I think that's really what just kind of, for us, almost, I don't want to say solidified,
right,
but just kind of like, okay, this is weird. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And of course, ever since then, it's been the talk of the town. Obviously at the Worlds, what went down in Tech afterwards,
yes,
I don't know who brought up that Ongaro might be using a gyro. I know I was approached by a couple people accusing me of saying it, but I definitely wasn't the guy. Mm-hmm. Obviously I probably was talking about it amongst my inner circle, but right. I never, accused anybody officially, to any of the IFMAR officials. There was no official protest filed by anybody. And, they did a sweep of his car. They did a sweep of my car. They did a sweep of Ty's car, and they never, they didn't find anything. So right. I think, there was some guys playing with them at a few of these races, but I don't think they are anymore.
Okay.
And if they are running them, maybe they're just, it's not helping them quite as much on some of these tracks as it potentially was. But, I don't know. It's all speculation, and I think anytime you see, for any of us, you see somebody going fast that you're not used to going fast, you might think the first thought's like, whoa, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Different than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if somebody goes, oh, they're doing this.
It gets planted in your mind. And you're like, oh yeah, I can see that. I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's never been this, now there's this.
I think it's friendly though. I think it's good for RC.
It is, but it's, it's not, because this is a really small world, you know what I mean? And we all have to race each other. And it's not like there's all these new people coming in, you know what I mean? Like, we all have to race each other, and we all have to do it competitively, and we all should be doing it respectfully as well. And at the Nitro Challenge, I wasn't feeling that respect. A lot of us weren't feeling that respect coming from their direction, from a few guys. The Truggy main, when I was coming up to lap a few people while Ngaro was in second, I mean, it was like they had all guns out shooting for my truck, and luckily I just wasn't letting them catch me. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't believe in people should be trying to take out, if you feel like people are trying to take you out. I don't agree with that. I want to see racing. I like the rivalry, because it's good to see, because I think in all racing, drama and rivalry, it makes it exciting. But I don't want to see, I want to keep it friendly. Like, I talk about it a lot, but I keep it friendly because I like to tease a lot of my American friends, and I love it. But when you start taking it, and like you're saying, you feel that they're purposely trying to do things to you, then it goes too far. I do agree with you there. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's just, the communication barrier is not, it's not there, because we obviously all don't speak the same language. But, I think the respect level should be there, and, maybe they're not feeling the respect from our side because the gyro talk is so rampant.
Yes.
So there's definitely blame on both sides, and hopefully we can just be done with this gyro thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we got to get rid. We just this is how I look at it. Until somebody actually gets caught with one, nobody's using them. That's how I look at it. So,
yeah, I agree. But it's hard. Anytime you're just like, if somebody's coming to these races and they're just blowing you out, okay, tenths of a second's fine, but if somebody's going seconds faster than you, it's always like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? So that then the conversation's going to come back. So
always. Unfortunately.
Now, yeah, unfortunately. So hopefully everybody's racing fairly, and the truth to the matter is we actually don't have a way to tech it unless you bring in people that know what these electronics are. You bring in people from Sanwa, from KO, from Futaba, and they actually tear these things down to the bone. There's no way to tech for it. So until we're actually going to do that, the conversation is going to exist. So, which is unfortunate, but it just is what it is.
Yes, I agree, man. I'm kind of tired of hearing it. I understand both sides of the fence. So I'm just but I just say it, until we catch them, or if they're using them, and until somebody gets caught, it's hard to say. So, right. But I still like the rivalry, and I think it's good because I just about making RC exciting, but I want it to be respectful, and I'm always about friendly rivalry. I don't want, I know emotions get carried. It's racing. We're men. We're racing. Yes, we're gonna get emotional at things. We want to win. We want to beat each other. It's human nature. So I don't mind a little crap talk, a little banter, as long as it's not stupid. And
the bummer thing about the whole thing is that in Europe, this is the strongest group of drivers they've had
in a long time,
ever in my racing career.
Well, in your racing career,
yeah, in my racing career. I mean, you have 4 or 5 guys that can go to any event and compete for the win. And America, we've always kind of had the stronger crop of drivers, but right now, I mean, it's crazy. The competition is amazing.
Yes.
And, all those guys work, their tails off to be as fast as they are. And they're all great drivers.
Yes.
And they all work super hard. And they do it a little different than we do. They run different setups. They run different tires, but they can get to the same speed or sometimes faster than us. And, when this conversation pops up, it's a bummer for them.
Yeah.
It's taking credibility away from their work. And it sometimes makes us look like little, whiny brats, basically. But, it's at the same time, it's where there's smoke, there's fire. And we're not the people accusing them. We have people from their country and from their federations or whatever telling us that this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So basically, I think if it's really happening, they need to get it in check over there first.
Yes.
And then, then the conversation will start to dissipate, and it won't be such a thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
till then,
I totally agree.
It is what it is.
And the thing about the Europeans, we're just talking about the crop of racers that are coming up now in your time. There's a lot of young guys they have over there that are fast and coming as well. And I think it's because and they also focus a lot more on one class. Like they focus on 8 scale, and that's what they do. And they race that all the time. So obviously you have to race 10 scale and go to all these different events. So it takes from your 8 scale program. So I get it. One thing I wanted to ask you about DNC, I saw you went for a different paint job with the white on the back. Did that help you out as well? Because that track wasn't well lit, and I'm sure the white body was good to help you out with your sight.
I'm getting old, man.
We all are.
Yeah. Basically, we had a race at Tony Schumacher's track, the Nitro compound here in Arizona, a new track, great facility. And it was dark, Basically, I've always had a little bit of a problem with when I'm out in the sunlight all day long and then trying to get my eyes to adjust at night. Everything's really blurry and kind of my eyes glaze over. I think that's pretty typical of most people.
Right.
But yeah, I was doing a race there and I ran an all white body and I could see my car fine. I looked at Spencer's car going around the track, Spencer Rifkin's car, and I couldn't see it at all. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh man, I need to maybe consider making a change to something. So I just asked Jason to do me up some white bodies and, not all white, but the scheme everybody saw at the Nitro Challenge. And yeah, it was mainly just to see it better at night. And it was a huge advantage, just to be able to, if you can see your car that much better, then it's going to help. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So yeah, I think I might keep them as my Nitro paint jobs. I think they look cool going around the track. It's easier to spot my car. And I'll keep the blue for the 10 scale side and a white, maybe the white for the A scale. And
good stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be cool. I think they look cool too. Now,
thank you.
Another thing that I've noticed when I've been to a few races and I've watched you race is your ability to make up from mistakes. When you do make a mistake, you have the ability to gain speed somewhere else to make up for it. How is your focus when you're driving? If you got this guy behind you that's chasing you, where do you go mentally to keep your cool and say, okay, I got to do this and I got to do that?
Yeah, when I'm leading, I know that obviously I'm going fast enough to be leading, and that the guy behind me is going to have to obviously drive faster than me to catch me. So, I tell myself, make them make a mistake, so I try to lock it into where I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just doing what I know, to do, what lines to do, just to keep it at a certain lap time, and keep that pace just really steady, and try to force them to make a mistake, because it's the same thing. If I'm chasing somebody down, when you're chasing, you're more likely to make a mistake because you're obviously pushing harder. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a mental thing. You just got to kind of take a breath and not look at it as pressure, but look at it as an opportunity to break the will of the guy behind you a little bit. You know what I mean? Just lock it in and cruise around and keep the pace and not worry about. You can't go faster. If you're already leading, you're going fast enough. So there's no reason to try to push harder.
That's actually a good quote. That's actually really a good quote. Okay, so you're 32. You're in the prime of your career. You're kicking ass. You're doing well. You're winning. The Worlds is every 2 years, so the next one's for 8 scale. Next year's in 2020. How much time do you have left? Do you think? How many more years can you be at this level?
I have no idea. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any cases or drivers before myself and Cavalieri, Tebow. to really go off of, because I don't think any of the guys before us, like the Pavitas and the Kenwalds and the Francises, I don't think they were making quite the same money that we're getting paid now.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't racing as much as we're racing.
Okay.
You really lose your ability, or not lose, but your ability starts to deteriorate when you stop racing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or that if your focus is now somewhere else. So those guys had to focus on careers outside of RC, because, I mean, at the end of the day, the amount of time we put in, if you're not getting paid a decent amount of money, it can seem like a waste of time. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So, I'm not saying that we're getting paid millions. We're not getting rich by any means, but we make enough to live a life and continue to work, and do what we love to do. And I don't know if those guys were afforded the same opportunities. Most of them had jobs in the industry. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I think the mold's kind of being built right now, maybe for how long you can do this. And I believe that I can do it as long as my focus allows me to, and that my attention can remain on racing and bettering myself and my equipment. So I hope to do it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's a great. I'm looking forward. I have a son now. I would love to do it with him when he gets older, because it is a great family, hobby sport. And it would be something that we can do together for a long time, just like my father and I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope to do it for as long as I possibly can. Obviously, if my abilities start to fade, then, I have talents that can hopefully keep me in the industry, as far as testing and developing and, whatever somebody wants to put me to work doing.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, are you going to race forever like Saxton, or do you think you just get a job in the industry? I mean, I'm sure there's a place at J Concepts for you eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any, there's no pressure for me to do anything from anybody. I'm going to race as long as I can, and that's kind of, I think that's my goal. That's Cavalier's goal. That's Tebow's goal, and if it's not their goal, it should be, because, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that we have, at our fingertips, essentially.
Yes.
No pun intended. But, we get to do what we love, and we get to travel the world doing it. And it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of time away from home. But when we're home, I'm lucky enough I get to be home. You know what I mean? I don't have to go to a job. Obviously, I have to work and prepare while I'm home. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope to do it as long. I mean, even if I'm not winning races and I'm not, being paid to race RC cars and go win anymore, I still want to race.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Even outside of racing, I have cars I go to the desert with and beat the crap out of them. And
really,
yeah. I mean,
you like the bash?
A hobby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I like the bash.
That's
for
awesome.
Sure. The problem is nobody makes a strong enough car.
You into scale trail? I remember Jason saying something about it on his podcast with Gotti, that you actually he bought a whole crawler and a scale truck and all that stuff and got really into it.
I've done it all. I've had all the boats. I've done airplanes. I did the crawlers. The crawlers are cool because they look cool.
Yeah. And
the mechanics of them are cool, but they're too slow.
But you can drink beer while you drive them. Like, just put some beer in your Camelback and go for a walk and do them.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you're just an RC enthusiast. I like everything RC, dude. I've even had a sailboat. Like, we race them in Bermuda. Like,
I don't know if I'd go with a sailboat, but I'm with you. I'm an enthusiast, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And age is nothing but a number. I mean, I will give two great examples who I think Drake is in his 40s. He's not as fast as he used to be, but he still can get the job done. He's still fast. Yep. Billy Easton's 42, probably going 43. He took a break from RC and he's back racing again, and he's still doing good. So, I mean, it's feasible that you could be doing this. I believe you can be doing this in your 40s and still be competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Like I said, I think, as long as if you continue to do it and you continue to race and push yourself, and the key is racing on a high level. You know what I mean? Going out and just burning laps doesn't do anything for you. you have to race the fastest guys. And that's what keeps you on your toes and keeps you there. So if I can keep doing that, then I hope to do it for a long time, for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Good stuff. So we all know you've been very outspoken throughout your career. You wear your heart on your sleeve. You tell people what's on your mind and say what you think. Do you think that? I think that's great, honestly. I think more drivers should do that. Where does that come from? Is that just your passion oozing out and just like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess if anybody's ever met my dad, you probably know where it comes from.
Okay.
But no, I don't know. I've kind of always been that way, and when it is I would say it is the passion coming out of me, or just my fire to win and perform. And sometimes it comes out in not a great way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on it. It's definitely been better. I've been able to kind of learn how to woo-saw.
Yeah.
kind of, and but that it is what it is. I've had some problems in the past, smashing radios and maybe yelling and stuff like that, and driving my car into a wall, and
Mm-hmm.
but it is kind of what it is. I've apologized for anything I've ever done wrong. When you're in the heat of the moment and you're going for a national championship win, or any win, doesn't really matter. Everywhere I go, I want to win, and I'm expected to perform at the highest level. And really, I only get mad at things that are out of my control. If it's my fault I didn't win, if it's my fault the car broke, I don't really get mad because I know it's my fault. But when it's something that I can't control, and it was something that was avoidable, and it cost me the win, then there's anger there. And it's honestly, I don't think anybody I'm around would want it any other way. Obviously maybe I could handle it a little bit better occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
But if I walk off the driver's stand leading the nationals and my car breaks because another car flipped across the lane and I'm not mad, then that just means I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, when I see people getting emotional and getting, pissed off about losing, that just shows me that they care and that they're fired up. And, at the moment, there's no other way to handle that anger. You know what I mean? And, what else? There's not like a punching bag right there. There's not, there's no private time for us to relax.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And take a breath. Everybody's watching exactly what's happening, and especially now with social media. So everything gets blown out of proportion. And, I know I've been demonized online, and, people think I'm an asshole, and, it is what it is. The true people that are around me, my true friends, they know who I am. They know I would do anything for anybody at any time. And, but I do have a fiery streak, and I think that's what also makes me as good as I am at times, is because I don't like it. I overcome adversity, or I try to. And, if that adversity is something that is not overcome, I can't overcome it, and it wasn't my fault, then it turns into anger. Mm-hmm. And it's just part of it. So
yeah, I think honestly, I was one of those guys that judged you. I always liked you as a racer. I think you're awesome. And then I would see you at these races, and I was nervous to talk to you. And I'm like, why am I nervous to talk to another man? We're all men at the end of the day, and we're all human, so we all make mistakes. And then we actually got to talk at DNC, and I was like, man, he's and I got to see a different side of you, and I was like, yeah, he's just a regular guy. And
most honestly, that side you saw, that is me.
Yeah.
And I have a very intense face, I guess, and I'm definitely an intense person. And when I'm mad, I definitely put off a vibe like, stay the F away. You know what I mean? But it's not intentional. It's just who I am, and I work on it. I try to get out of just get away if I'm in that kind of mood. I try to just get away, so I'm not showing that side. But it's impossible to get away. You got to be there. You have to do your work. And I people say that I'm not very approachable, and I don't feel I am. Anybody can come talk to me. I for sure don't have the happiest face, the most approachable face, but don't let that stop you.
Yeah.
And
I think people just need to realize, I understand it, man. You guys are in the limelight. If you didn't have this passion, like you said, then something would be wrong. Then you wouldn't win what you win. So I get it. It's like yin and yang. And you know what? I like that you're not politically correct. I like that you're not vanilla. I wish more drivers were like that. I wish they did speak their mind, because then it would make everything more exciting. So I think you should, okay, if you want to turn it down a little bit, I get that, but say what's on your mind, man. If you think this guy hacked you, say that. And you know what? Next race, people's gonna be watching to see what happens. That's what racing's all about, and that's what helps build racing and make it more exciting, in my opinion. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. It would be nice if everybody understood that. I understand that a rivalry is great, but it needs to be a friendly rivalry. And if I go say something about somebody publicly, it always gets taken out of context. So we really can't, like I said earlier, this is a very small world. We have to see each other every week.
Yeah.
So you really can't go bash people. It's just, yeah, I mean, I speak my mind. I try to say what's on my mind, but at the same time, I sometimes get in trouble with it. And, the court of public opinion doesn't often favor what I think or what I do, but luckily they're not the judge of me. And, just read the comments, laugh, have a good laugh with everybody, and move on.
You know what silences people? Winning. When you're winning, they can't say nothing. They'll be like, ah.
Yep.
So, and you've been doing that. Let's talk about what happened at the World's Banquet. That was involved you, and of course involved the Finnish village idiot Joseph Quagrain.
Yep.
And honestly, he kept saying to me, "Oh yeah, me and Mayfield's cool, we're friends." And I'm like Joseph, what are you talking about? And we had this conversation at DNC. Okay, and I get your point 100%. I would have done the same thing you done. So let's talk about that, because it was funny. You actually succeeded in doing something that not many people have done in the RC industry, and that's to shut Joseph up. So kudos to that, because I haven't even figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah, I mean, it was, obviously Joseph, you want to talk about outspoken, he's obviously the king of that. And most of the time I like what he has to say, and he has good ideas, and, but then other times, he was talking poorly about Adam. And that's kind of been going on for a long time. And, it's fine if Adam is playing along, but Adam, he's not playing along, it's not funny to him. And he's not the kind of guy that's going to, say anything publicly or do anything. It's just not his personality. So Joseph went up on stage at the banquet and said something. And, I felt like when it was my time to go up on stage, and that I would just, basically defend Adam. Not saying Adam needs defending, that he's defenseless, but, I knew that, I just felt like that was the right point. That was the right time, that everybody was there. And if Joseph felt that he could speak poorly about, one of our greatest ambassadors in front of the world stage, that I could speak poorly about him in front of the world stage. And, to be honest, Joseph was a good sport about it, and,
well, he did turn red like a beet, I heard. So I'm
not sure, I didn't talk to him at the banquet. But we did talk a couple days later once everybody got home, and we discussed it, and, there wasn't really any hard feelings, and we went to the next race and we hung out and had a beer, and, it's all good. So.
Yeah. I'm constantly on Joseph to stop this. I understand his point, but this is Joseph, and he's hard-headed. And I get that he is like, well, I'm joking and whatever. I say, yeah, but not everybody gets your humor, and maybe he doesn't want to be a part of it. I would love Drake to partake in it, and it would be fun, and it could be friendly. I would love them to. I've told Joseph countless times, man, you should stop this, and you and Drake should talk, because I think there are two very popular figures in RC. Love him or hate him, Drake is popular, and Drake is obviously popular. I think if they work together, they could do a lot of good things. But we're men and we have egos. So Joseph has his ego; he doesn't want to stop. Drake doesn't want to be a part of it. So I get it. Hopefully, one day they can squash it and be friends. But I totally get, because if you would have, imagine if you would have been like you said to us, you would defend your boy. So I get it. I totally get it. And people obviously read into it and all that type of stuff. And yes, it honestly pissed me off, because I woke up and was like, oh man, we had a really good Worlds. What the hell is this? And then I was just like, and then I said to Joseph, I said, sometimes there's a time and place to say things. You should have went up, got your trophy, said thank you, and sat down. But it's Joseph, and that's what we've come to know as Joseph. So, but you guys are still friends.
Just people haven't, Joseph criticizes people publicly, and typically people don't, return the favor, essentially. And there was no malicious intent behind anything. It was mainly just me thinking like, all right, enough's enough. You've said enough. I'm gonna say my piece, and there was no feud or anything going on. And to be honest, it probably wasn't my place to say anything. It wasn't my fight.
Yeah.
But it had been going on long enough, and I know it was well received in the audience for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with Joseph. Like I said, I like some of the things he says. I like some of the things he does. The other stuff, not so much. But bad publicity is good publicity sometimes, and it's the same thing. All whatever the saying is, all publicity is good publicity. Yeah. So, and he definitely has taken a hold of that method, and it's worked well for him.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I would like to see both of them come together and just squash it. And I just think they can do good things together. But that comes on both sides, and it has to start with somebody. But maybe in the years to come, when Joseph gets a little older, we'll see. I don't know. I can't speak for Joseph, but I have told him many times. Come on, man. Let's stop this. Yeah. But that brings me on to something that you've been very passionate about, that I've heard you say many times on videos or interviews, and it's about having a World Series to actually crown a champion. We're more talking about the Worlds. We all know the Worlds happens every 2 years. It's a great race. I really enjoy watching both the 10 scale off-road Worlds as well as the 8 scale off-road Worlds. We get to see the best people racing each other. DNC was a great example of that this year. We had a lot of the European guys. We had all the American guys. It had a very Worlds flavor, I would like to say, like a Worlds atmosphere. I want to see that happen more. And also, let's be real. You've had times where you could, like your Nationals back in 2017 when you was dominant. Or no, last year at the Nationals when you had that when you flamed out in your semi. If the Nationals was actually a series, that would have raced. You could have come back in like 2 or 3 races and won that. And I think we have to have that in RC. And you've been very vocal about that. What do you feel? I know you're vocal about it, but what do you feel about RCGP? I think most pros think it's a great idea. I know a lot of people's problem with that is Joseph, but I think at the end of the day, we have to get over that and focus on what's trying to be done for RC as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, my problem isn't with Joseph at all. I mean, initially, like I said at the banquet, Joseph was trying to get us to buy into this idea, and he was doing it, I felt, the wrong way by, still being publicly disrespectful to a few of our top guys. But we've hashed that out. And my problem isn't with Joseph, and I don't really have a problem with RCGP at all. I guess if I had any complaint is that I don't think this is really the right way to do it. Now, I think what they're trying to do is great, but to ask all of us pro guys to basically replace existing races that have 500, 600, 700 entries of customers that buy our product, and we go to these events instead with, at this point, no following, no customers, we don't know what to expect, is a little ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. Now, if they would have approached us with the idea of, we want to come in, not approach us as drivers, but what I think would have been great, and what we've always said, is that somebody with this idea and the money behind them, like what they have, come in for a year or two and you give us a proof of concept that this is what they want to do, and use existing races. Mm-hmm. Use the Nitro Challenge, use the Silver State, use the Nationals, use the European Nationals, use these events, and then show us how this point system works and how your media abilities work, and show us your ability to bring in outside sponsors and stuff like that. And you're already using events that have, like I said, 500-600 entries at some of these events, and everybody's going to be there already. Mm-hmm. So now that would be a way to do it. I think that would be an awesome way to do it. And you're not expecting companies to come out of pocket with extra money that they have not budgeted for, which is really the biggest issue at this moment with companies that aren't willing to, it's not that they're not willing, it's that they didn't budget to spend this much money. Mm-hmm. For us to go to the Philippines, to go to Europe 3 more times, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea. I think there should be a World Series type format, but it would have been, I think, more well received if they would have worked with guys like Joey Christensen, which now Joey puts on the Dirt Nitro Challenge and the Silver State, so that would have been easy to get that on board. And then whatever other races there are, there's a few in Europe that already exist. And I don't know how the logistical side of things would have worked, but I think that would have been an easier pill to swallow for most of the companies and most of the drivers than asking us to add 5 events to our already 30+ race weekend schedule a year. I get that. I hope them well. I hope it works, and if it does work this year, maybe we'll be there next year.
Yeah, who knows? I think it's great. Can I just rebuttal to some of your questions? Is originally, I know that they were planning on doing it alongside other races, but the way the RCGP format is, it's not possible. They tried to do it with Joey. It's just
that's my complaint, is that they are trying to completely change racing. They're trying to change our racing that we already have, which I can appreciate that. IFMAR qualifying is boring, and these races are super long and they're 5 days long and all that stuff. But what they're also trying to sell is that they're amazing, like media content ability.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So if they came in and gave us a proof of concept that they can put together these awesome media videos for us to use and spin these storylines to where it's super cool, and use those tools that are already at their discretion, basically, or their disposal, to paint this portrait of how awesome racing is,
well,
to get outside sponsors, and then they can do their own events and use the format they want to use to make it even more exciting. That's what we feel kind of as a group would have been the best way to do it.
I understand that, and I know that originally was the plan, but I know because I'm kind of in the background of this. I know that they've approached outside sponsors and stuff like that. But as an outside sponsor, I'm like, oh man, what am I going to cater to? Am I going to, and don't get me wrong, all these races, the Dirt, Silver State, all these races that look like guys like me get to go to, they're great, and they still have to happen. Don't get me wrong. But I think, I've said this over and over, I think at the end of the day, as RC is in general, we're not really you're a professional racer. You attack your job professionally, but I don't think we promote RC professionally. Now, in order to do that, you have to have somebody with vision, and I think also doing that and putting it on a platform where other people that are into RC can see that helps, because I'm all about growing the industry, because the more people racing RC cars, the better it is for you, the better it is for manufacturers, hobby shops, tracks, everything. So that's another goal of RCGP. I get that some people, I get it. You want to see this and you want to see that, but until you actually do it, it's hard to,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're trying to set a trend. They're trying to create something new. And I respect that. Absolutely. But I think they got a tough road ahead of them as far as proving to to all the teams. I know there's some people that have decided to give it a try, and good for them. But to try to get, all of us, especially this year, I mean, the first round in the Philippines is the same week as the Silver State. Yeah. I mean,
I know.
Who in their right mind is really going to pass up going to Vegas to go to the Philippines? But no offense to the Philippines, but I get it. Scheduling is tough. It's just it happened that way.
Well, unfortunately, the Philippine race has kind of been on that date for the last 4 or 5 years, and then Silver State started last year on that date. So yes, I'm going to be watching both races. I'll be watching this, and I'll be watching Silver State because I think Silver State's going to be a great race as well. Yeah. But I just think, man, I heard people saying we need change and we need this and we need that, and why isn't RC mainstream, and why is drones on RC and on TV and
well, we
RC
can talk about that too. I mean, let's look at. Have you ever watched drone racing?
Yes, I have.
Epically boring it is.
It's very boring.
I mean, you can't even tell what's going on. You can't see what they are doing. It just looks like 3 blurs of light going by at 110 miles an hour. So, from the story I've been told, now take this with a grain of salt, that basically some TV execs got into drone racing and they pumped a bunch of money into getting it on TV. So if that is the case, it's not because there's a viewer demand, it's because there was money behind it.
Yes. So
not to speak poorly about our racing, but if you can step back and just pretend you don't know what's going on, and you're watching a main event.
Of course. I know where you're going with this.
Can you even tell what's happening?
No, because we're not catering it to spectators. We're catering it to us that know what's going on.
But even if we did cater it to spectators, I mean, the way the cars are painted with all the stickers and, they just look like blurs going around the track. I mean, you would need some pretty high-end TV crew to be able to follow those things around up close. And yeah, I'm not saying it's not possible. What I'm saying is that RC racing is not a spectator sport, especially at this point. What it is it's a participation thing. Anybody can do it, and anybody can race at the same track that I'm racing at, that Joseph's racing at, all around the world. And that's what we need to be catering to at this. That's my opinion.
But how about if we grow that? How about if we make that bigger? So this is my thing. If we make this bigger, so we have 500 entries, 700 entries at DNC. But next year, okay, maybe we don't want 1,000 entries because that's a lot. But my thing is all about RC is so small. I actually did a little, I just went on Instagram the other day and I looked at different drivers that are top drivers like Ronald Falcav, 11,000, 12,000 viewers, followers. Then I looked at motocross. The average motocross guy has 500,000 followers. So think of it like this, if 150 new people got into RC just in America this year, that would impact the industry a lot. Now imagine if 1,000 people got into it over this year around the world. That impacts our industry a lot. The problem is, like you said, people don't know what we're doing. And
there's also no danger involved.
Exactly.
There's no hot chicks involved.
Well, we have to make it cool. I think we have to make it cool.
I agree, but I think what makes it cool is that everybody can, nobody can go do what Tomac does.
No, of course.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying anybody can pick up a radio and do what I do, but they can also go drive around the same track and drive the same car. That's what makes it unique. So I think catering to its uniqueness instead of trying to make it like motocross, because it's never going to be like motocross unless we put fire pits out there and the marshals got to wear helmets and you know what I mean? I don't know, make it some sort of death race type thing.
Well, sorry,
that's not going to happen.
You
obviously
participated in. We can just about marshal now. My fat ass be out there tripping all over everything. Remember the race that I think you won a 4-wheel or I think Tebow won it had the
it was the Manufacturers Cup in Idaho, I think.
Yeah, I think Rick McCreary and those guys put it on. I like to use this because this is social media wasn't that big, and there was no Facebook Lives and none of this stuff. I mean, even Live RC was in its infancy doing this. We've come a long way since then. I thought this was the best thing to ever happen to RC. The track was like the spectators were that had the biggest jump. The winners, you won like I think you won did you win a 4-wheel?
Yeah, I won a quad.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Like they handed out to the guy who won Open, they handed out a year TLR sponsorship. Now, if he can take that and make it and broadcast it around the world, we change things. I understand.
Yeah.
We participate. I want to race. I mean, the RCGP races have the RC2 class for the racers. So, okay, I know that like a lot of Americans can't go to the Philippines because it's expensive. But around that area, you have the guys from Thailand, you have the guys from Japan, you have the guys from Australia, and all that will take part in that part of the race. But the actual pro side will be completely separate. And not separate, they'll still be there, but it'll just be on a more professional level. And they'll still stream the RC2 part, but the video production comes for the professional side. And I think I understand a lot of people say we don't have information, or you don't do this. It's different. And whenever you're trying to do something different, there's always going to be naysayers. And we're trying to change a culture that's been going on for 35 years now. We've been racing the same for 35 years. And we need to grow our hobby some way. We need to get new people in there. We need to all be working together to do it. I mean, even the guy, we sponsor people. Your company, Mugen sponsors people because we want them to go out there and get more people involved. And people do that, don't get me wrong. But I just think we need to think bigger. And I think, as I say this all the time, as an industry, the manufacturers need to come together and work together to make things, to grow the hobby. And then when that happens, everybody eats. We make the pie bigger and everybody has more money to do more things. So then products become cheaper, more innovative. Racing becomes better. But this is my spiel. I've done it a whole bunch of time. I get what you're saying as well. I really hope to see you racing in it next year. I think it's a shame that you aren't this year, but I understand. I do understand why. Don't get me wrong. I'm just passionate about it because I want to see you racing there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason other than budget, really, and that we've scheduled to go to these events, and the events that we're already going to, and it's a lot of money. I mean, people don't know how much they're asking for from a team to send 2 guys, and I understand they have bills, and
to be fair, the money that the companies will pay is nothing compared to what has actually gone into this. And
I understand that, but it's still a substantial amount of money. And like I said, there's no proof of concept. There's nothing. Right now, we're going on their word that this is what they want to do, and this is what's gonna happen. And that's a hard pill to swallow for any company. So, but I wish them luck. And if it seems like they're doing all the right things, and hopefully it does turn into something bigger, because I want to see the industry grow. We all do. And hopefully this is that platform.
Yeah.
I might be there next year. We might all be there next year.
I just want to see you and all the best guys race more. That's all I want to see. And I think you want to do it too. I think if that happens, everybody's level of racing even goes up. That's the amazing part about it. But enough about that, man. We actually have, I know it's getting late. I know you got things to do. Well, not late, but it's early morning. I actually have a few, viewer questions that we're going to do. And then I'm going to go into our fastraceshop.com 10 questions, 10 seconds segment. So I'm going to pick a few questions. You can answer them as quickly as possible. And we'll go from there. So, actually, here we go. Tyson Walsh, she says, taking a look back when you switched from TLR to Mugen, was that decision made on just the car, or was it more of the people that went there, i.e. with Drake and when Drake went to Mugen?
Yeah, there was a lot of things going on at that time, and it was really a way to diversify my portfolio, I guess you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you can race for, more companies, it makes what they pay you smaller for them, but it can add up more for me or for the drivers. And I'd always wanted to run for Mugen. I mean, Jason and I had talked, like, we thought that car probably would suit my driving the best. Obviously, it's what a lot of people base their designs off of. And the only way that I could have done it is by, working with a company like Yokomo that, finding two companies that do the opposite of each other. And I actually spoke to Yokomo first because I've known Yokomo for a long time. Obviously, they've been around forever. And we got a deal put together, and it was very positive, and they told me they were willing to do whatever it took. And they have. And they've made we made great changes, great cars now, and I jumped into the Mugen program, and it was a pretty easy transition, especially with Drake already being there. And it's it's been good. I think there wasn't any one reason why. There was a conglomerate of things, but it's been great.
Awesome. And I want to say, my boy Enzo Albertoni, it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, dude. He has a question for you. He says, has Ryan ever considered maybe doing a driving clinic like Tebow has at any future 8-scale or 10-scale races?
I have, but it's just time-wise, and, I think maybe doing a clinic, kind of help with car questions might be a little more valuable. At the end of the day, I think it's hard to try to tell somebody how to drive. I can explain like line choice, picking lines and stuff like that. But telling you how to turn the wheel and pull the trigger, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, doing a clinic to help with cars, setting up throttle linkage and stuff like that, that's one thing. But, that takes time, and, now with the family, racing 10 scale and A scale, there's a lot going on. So
I say
maybe one of these days. I
say people don't realize all the time that goes in before you race. And yeah, I agree with it. This actually comes from Max Mort. He says, Ryan seems to always have maximum power. He can get on his stuff, be it electric or nitro. He says, did you make a conscious decision at some point in your career to learn to drive with a lot of power and still be smooth on acceleration? And he says, basically, he thinks you're smoother than a lot of drivers. Or was this something that naturally happened?
I don't really know. When I wasn't smooth, people still think I'm like punched, and drive out of control. And I definitely did. I think probably 9 or 10 years ago, I was for sure like that. But I think probably ever since the brushless motor days started coming around and the LiPo batteries, we've had an excess amount of horsepower. And, I've always been the guy that wants, especially in nitro, I want the most horsepower you can give me. And then I will dictate how much power I deliver to the car. And in turn, I will get better mileage, and I can control if I need the power or if I don't need the power.
Okay.
So I try to, electric's a little different. Electric, you got to kind of tune it to be smooth, because the track, it's just a little different. But A scale, I feel like if you give me as much power as you can, and I will govern it from there. So yeah, I've been trying to do that for the last few years, and it does seem to work as long as I can get the power out of it.
Awesome. 2 more questions because we have a bunch, and we're going on an hour and a half here. Will Smith. What's up, Will? What is your biggest challenge in holding the position of being one of the fastest in the industry?
I don't think there's any challenge. I think I love what I do, and I have a great group of people around me that support me and help me, with my equipment at the events. My family is very supportive. My wife is very understanding, and understands this is my job. I got to go. I got to work. So I don't think there's any real challenges. I just I try to just do everything I know to do, and hopefully that turns into good results.
Awesome. And now this will be our last question. Where is it? This actually was a good question, I thought. Where is it? Tony Nisbet. He says, since you've been around RC for so long and seen its evolution, what do you think has been the biggest innovation in our hobby in the past 25 years?
I know Tony. I've known Tony for a long time, local Arizona guy.
Okay.
Well, I would have to say probably the two things. Probably the rise of RTR cars, making it a lot easier for your average guy just to go buy a car. I heard some stat a few years ago that like 80 or 90% of RC cars sold will never go to an RC car track.
I could believe that.
And that's that's kind of the reason why most of these companies jumped on the RTR bandwagons, because the RTR stuff helps support or does support the racing side of things. And then probably for the electric side, the introduction of brushless and lipo.
Yes.
That was huge. The run times increased tenfold. The power increases. It's easier. There's little to no maintenance. That's been big. Nitro hasn't changed much, to be perfectly honest. I mean, servos have gotten better. Everything's gotten better. But there's never been this. I haven't seen this like one thing that makes it a lot easier. Maybe 2.4 back in the day. If you had a A-scale car glitch and take off, that was always a bummer.
Yeah. No radio impounds or nothing to deal with. That makes a race go much faster. Cool.
For sure.
Well, thank you for answering this for our viewers, and thank you, viewers, for submitting the questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of them, but there are quite a lot, and Ryan's been talking for a while, and we got to move on to the FastRaceShop.com 10 question, 10 second segment.
Now we go into the Fast Race 10 questions in 10 seconds segment. Fast Race is a world champion option parts brand made in Italy. Fast Race drivers include Davide Ongaro and Riccardo Berton, and they run the innovative performance-enhancing parts that Fast Race makes for most 1/8 buggies, including the world-famous honeycomb shock bladders and caps. Go to FastRaceShop.com and type in Lefty 2019 to get 10% off your purchase now.
So welcome, guys, to the FastRaceShop.com 10 questions, 10 second segment. Ryan, are you ready for the this segment?
Sure. I hope it's not really only 10 seconds. Doesn't sound like it's going to work very well.
No, it never does. It never does. All right. So the first question that I have for you is, if you didn't race RC cars for a living, what would you be doing?
Probably mechanic.
Okay. Number 2, your biggest rival is?
Ty Tessman.
Awesome. Number 3, if you could bring back one old school RC thing, what would that be?
Probably harder A-scale compound tires.
Okay. Why would that be? Just curious.
Well, back when I first started racing A-scale, you had like 2 options, XTR or M2, and that was it. It was a lot easier.
Yeah.
Now we mount, 25 sets of tires, and sometimes we still didn't mount the right set.
Yes.
So
now this is my little joke to you, because I know you're an avid fan of Coors Light. If you had to drink any beer but Coors Light, what would it be?
PBR.
What? Man, I am going to get you, the next time I see you, I am going to get you a Modelo or something like that, man. Come on. Modelos are so awesome. I meant to give you one at DNC. Okay.
They're too filling, man. They just drink one, I feel bloated. It's good, for sure.
I mean, I don't mind a Coors Light on a hot day, to be honest, but I can't drink too much of them. Okay, Number 5. Have you ever considered transitioning to a different discipline of RC as a professional, i.e. on-road, or I guess that would be would you go racing a different discipline of RC?
I am this year. I'm racing the 10 scale nationals with the Yokomo touring car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I've been tossing around maybe racing the A scale on-road worlds this year since it's in California, and I've always wanted to give that a shot, and this is probably my best opportunity to try. Not sure if I'm going to be able to do it just because it's such a long event.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Do it. I said do it.
It looks cool, man. They're fast. They look badass. Mugen said that they would help with obviously the product and getting me help with working on it and learning the ropes. So we'll see.
It's Tim Long's into that, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yep.
So that's good. All right, number 6. Is Rona really into monster trucks that much?
I don't think as much as he leads on. I know he was really into him when he was a kid, and he still likes him. But it's also, he's a smart businessman. There's a big underground scene of RC monster trucks, and he's accepting of that, and he wants to be a part of it, and he wants to build the trucks he thinks are cool. And one thing he's always done, he builds things and makes things that he thinks is cool, and they seem to sell, because if he thinks they're cool, most people think they're cool. So yeah, he loves them.
Okay. Number 7, the best race you have ever attended.
Ooh, I don't know. As far as what, give me a little more.
Let's do 8 scale.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot. Probably just any A scale worlds, all the pageantry, especially in Europe. When you go to Europe or Asia for an A scale race, it's a totally different vibe than America. You're just like I said, the pageantry, they make sure you're taken care of. The worlds in Thailand, I don't know if people have seen pictures of that place, but it was insane. It was basically like a stadium they built with containers around the track, and just being on the driver's stand and looking around, it was like nothing I've ever seen. I remember that being pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably just any A scale world is always the best.
Okay. Number 8. Ronafalk, Tessman, Cav, Tebow, or Rivkin. Which one has to get the love tap in a race?
All of them.
That's a good answer. Okay, number 9. If you could only race one class, what would it be?
I guess A scale. I mean, A scale definitely takes the most time, takes the most effort, and in turn that makes it the most satisfying. And the smell and the feel and the vibe you get, yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of the best for sure.
Okay. And this question, actually, Joseph wanted me to ask you this one. He goes, this is number 10. What is your thoughts on everybody being a pro?
As far as everybody being sponsored?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's good. I think it's bad for the industry. I think it's basically the industry is shooting itself in the foot one toe at a time, because the only reason that we have places to race is because of hobby shops and tracks. And if all these companies just keep sponsoring everybody just to get guaranteed customers, contracted customers, as we like to call them, that's just taking money out of the hobby shop's hands. And, if the industry needs to work together on anything, they need to work together on that and come up with some sort of agreement that we're only going to sponsor X amount of people per region or per country or whatever. Or just sponsor people through a hobby shop, say Mugen calls, I don't know, Hobby Action and goes, hey, we want you to sponsor 5 guys. We're going to give you X amount of product at a discount. You can still make your nut. We still make our money, and you're sponsoring people. They think they're sponsored. Done. You know what I mean? So
that's a good answer, actually. I like that. But we're done with the 10 fastraceshop.com 10 questions 10 seconds segment. I think you did a good job. You answered them truthfully, and I like the savagery. I like the love tap thing. I think that's gonna be good. I want to thank you for coming on. I know you're extremely busy. Would you have any shout outs before we go? Want to thank anybody?
Yeah, obviously I want to thank you for having me on. Thank all my sponsors. Mugen, J Concepts, Yokomo, Orion, MX, Main Hobbies, ProTech. And, everybody that supports me, helps me do what I need to do. Appreciate everybody. And thanks to all the viewers for listening. I'm sure you guys are going to have some comments. I can't wait to read them. And if, I guess maybe I'll come back on. We can do this again and get some more viewer questions going on. So that was fun. Yeah,
I'm trying to do it when guys win big races as well and bring them on and talk to them briefly. Not too long. But I do want you to help me with one thing. And I don't know, maybe Drake's going to be a little bit ticked off at me because we kind of got at it the other day on a podcast that he was doing. But I really want to get Drake on her because I actually have nothing against Drake. I know he doesn't like Joseph, but I would like that's one of the main guests I've been asked for on this podcast is they want to talk to Drake. And they want me to talk to Drake, and I think it would be good.
I mean, Drake's a pretty private person, man. I don't know, you know, even if he did come on, he's not going to give you the gossip about Joseph and stuff like that.
I don't want to talk about Joseph. You know? I want to talk about him and his career. That's what I want to talk about. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, I'll mention it to him, and I'll tell him that you were fair to me, which you were. Yep. And, yeah, it'd be good. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and you enjoy your day, and keep up the good work, man. You're kicking ass right now. Sounds good. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, bye-bye.